Well, it's grand final eve. So that must mean only one thing. The Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast grand final special edition one-off at the National Tennis Centre. And I think we've actually sold more tickets than the AFL footy show. I'm Sergio Paradise, and here is absolutely cranked for a massive weekend. It's Titus O'Reilly.
This is the largest crowd to a grand final event ever, period.
Correct. I think
there's never been a bigger crowd.
No, this rivals Donald Trump's
inauguration
speech.
His inaugural inauguration.
Yeah, exactly. His first of one.
And this is going to go as well as that did, and from then on.
Yeah, we need. Who was that bloke?
Sean Spicer.
Sean Spicer. We need him out by the night.
He did a great job.
Yeah. Now it is. We'll get to the grand final and all that sort of stuff, but just one off the top. We had it pointed out to from listeners that our Monday pre-grand final podcast, we forgot to give away the T-shirt.
Well,
we always do that.
We haven't done it for a while, so it's kind of a return to tradition.
Yeah.
So just to keep everything. So the winner was, I did actually think of the winner at the time and then forgot because I was obviously quite drunk.
Yeah. Short-term memory loss is a problem.
It was Anna Comben who wrote, who will be drunk first? Her husband, if he drinks whenever rants and genius or best defender ever mentioned in the same sentence, or her, if she drinks whenever Jenkins' basketball background is mentioned.
They're
both going to be paralytic.
Yeah.
So I might not even need to send them a T-shirt because I don't think either of them are going to make it out alive.
Well, they'll think they've already got one and they've just misplaced it. Yeah.
So very exciting. It's been a big few days. I've been flat out doing various things, but it's been fun. There is something about when there's with Richmond in it. There's just so many people interested in it all and keen to,
I just drove past the Punt Road Oval this morning, and I think they were about to come out for their final training session.
Yeah.
And there was quite a few people there.
Yeah.
But not that many.
Well, it's limited to how many they can let in. I heard. So
there were people like on Punt Road staring through the chainmail fence. But there didn't seem to be too many inside the ground at all. So maybe that was a bit early. I heard
something on the radio this morning, though, they were warning not everyone to rush in because they can't fit everyone. So that might have put a few off.
And
they should have trained at the MCG.
Well, you'd think so. I don't think anyone's allowed on there at the moment.
No.
Except the Killers. I think
the Killers.
I think the Killers have got a rehearsal there this afternoon.
Do they?
Bit of a sound check.
Are you going along?
No.
They asked you to drop down?
No. It's still that thing at the members' gate.
Right, your photo's plastered at every gate. Do not let this man in. Yeah. We should thank our supporters. We should. Thank you very much for giving your hard-earned to make sure we can do this podcast and everything else we're doing, and a lot happening at the moment. I just sent out a note to all the supporters. They get some money off and can order early my book, A Thoroughly Unhelpful History of Australian Sport, which
I've seen this, and it's
coming out October 30.
It's going to go gangbusters, I'm tipping.
I hope so, because that's my whole retirement plan.
Well,
everyone knows that writing books makes you rich.
Oh, well, on top of the podcast, I mean, when you put those two together, it's old J.K. Rowling sitting there,
I saw someone on Twitter the other day say, what do you call a group of white men? A podcast.
That's a good collective noun, isn't it? Yeah, of broke, middle-aged white men.
Yeah, that's right. Let's get right into it. You, the Brownlow medal, you were keen to talk about the Brownlow medal.
Well,
we only just got home from it. It did drag.
And we didn't even go, and we still just got home.
Who knew it would drag on? Never done that before.
Oh, Fairdingham goes forever. As I said, I went to a couple of Brownlows back in the day.
Yeah.
And it does go on forever in the room, but not nearly as bad as watching it on telly. It just went on.
But it's better in the room, you reckon?
It's at least in the room, you can look around and you can
see who's there,
check out all the wags.
The wags and all the blokes in their tuxes,
drunken footballers, and
hoping. Brendan Favola they had on the pre-game red carpet, which just shows you can come back from anything.
You can indeed.
In
another 12 months, Ben Cousins will be doing it. You watch.
And he was incredibly well behaved and boring. I much preferred unhinged Favola at the Brownlows than...
I would have spiked his drink at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
The rumour always was that someone from the Footy Show kept just handing him beers the whole time to
that last debacle
he was very much egged. Not that I think he needed.
I was about to say, I don't think he needed that much encouragement.
No, but I don't think they were necessarily saying, "Slow down, mate. You've got to present this."
Yeah. So, yeah. Look, the whole telecast, and look, I must admit I didn't see all of it, but there was a fair bit of action on social media, and not all that favourable about the great man Bruce McAvaney and his performance with Dusty.
Well, Dusty had to have a small operation earlier in the week to remove Bruce McAvaney. Yeah. It was a bit like that.
And he kept appearing like
just over his shoulder.
Like the clown from It.
It did. It was a bit... There was a bit of creep in it. There always is. Bruce is always just so excited about these players. I love football as much as anyone, but I don't get that kind of, just blow your mind at these... He's
still like genuinely starstruck.
Yeah,
it's like if you're an actor and you meet Robert De Niro or something, you'd naturally be a bit starstruck.
Yeah, but I think you either fall into the sort of person that's massively impressed by celebrity, or there's celebrities that if I met, I'd be like really pleased to meet them and excited because I like their work or something. Yeah, but I don't think there's many that I'd be like
a gibbering idiot.
Yeah, like this is the great. They're still just people. Like
not that Bruce is a gibbering idiot, but he does tend to gush, and we know that from his commentary. But he is.
He couldn't have been more excited.
Hate to say it, he is becoming a bit of a parody of himself.
But also, there was this amazing disconnect between Bruce was enjoying that interview as much as Dusty wasn't.
Yes.
It was like watching a Guantanamo Bay interrogation. And Dusty was like, yes, no.
He should have been in an orange jumpsuit on his knees.
He needed a lawyer. I was half expecting him to call a lawyer. And, and then Bruce is like, well, keep this short because I know it's not what you like. And then it was not short.
Yeah, exactly. And then they showed the press conference afterwards where there was just this shocking, 15-second pauses and silences in between questions, and this was where poor old Dusty's not experienced, and the coaches do the press conferences twice a week, every week, and so as soon as there's the slightest pause, they're up and out of there. Whereas poor old Dusty wasn't sort
of waiting for someone to tell him.
He was waiting for somebody to say, mate, let's go. So it was all just a bit uncomfortable.
But is there any greater contrast in two winners than last year you had Dangerfield and then Dusty in terms of their love of the media spotlight? Like Dangerfield, you can't, even on the night, even though he's ineligible, he was more front and centre almost than Dusty.
Yeah, he was. He is good, Dangerfield, like that. But, a huge contrast, as you say. But, I don't know what they can do with the Brownlow other than maybe tighten it up a bit. And the other thing that I got wind of was that they kept showing bloopers of blokes getting the old Falcon getting hit in the head with a footy. That
they had a few times. Yeah, there was
why not show genuine highlights of every
Well, they
round?
did that too. The highlight for me of the night by a mile was Jeremy Howe's face when he didn't get Mark of the Year. It was just...
They've got to change... AFL, they've got to change that stupid idea of getting the public to vote for it. I'm surprised he didn't get it.
You won't assume anyone else would have won. Do you know what I mean? Like the AFL or whatever panel, look at the All Australian stuff, the panels they get, they're not necessarily going to do better than the... You know what it should be? A postal vote.
Yeah, it should be. They could send out...
a postal survey, but it's a non-binding one, so they can still
can send them all out after round 23 and get them back in by Brownlow Day.
The thing that was amazing is Eddie the next day, and so did, was it Scott Pendlebury? I'm not sure. No, I don't think it was Scott Pendlebury. It was Adam Treloar. They both came out and were like, this is one of the great, travesties in sport. And you're like, mate, it's Mark of the Year. I know it's not a nothing thing, but it's not a big thing either. Like,
what did Joe Danaher win for winning Mark of the Year? Is it a good prize?
Oh, is it a car or something? I don't know.
I think it is a car.
Laughing at Jeremy's face.
I remember Mick McGuan saying back in like 1990 or something, he won goal of the year, for that famous 7 bounce job against Carlton.
Yeah.
And he said his prize was $300 worth of petrol.
Oh, that's all right.
But he'd lost his licence about a month before.
So what did he do with it?
He said he just never used it. He said, I've still got
the credit.
A certificate somewhere of $300 worth of Caltex or Amoco petrol.
So it was a boring night. God, the ads were just like, there were ads galore. There was just over and over the same ads. And then they kept having the sports bets thing with Nathan Brown, which were just... I mean, didn't they learn from the Tom Waterhouse experience that embedding it that much in the show? But the broadcasters just don't want to say no to the money.
No, exactly. I was just about to say.
That's half their budget right there.
Sport would have tossed in bucket loads for that. And so, Channel 7, we'll take it. Take it any time. Doesn't matter about the quality of the program. We don't care about that. We don't care about the viewers.
And they wonder why streaming and other things are just slowly overtaking everything because, why... It was just the longest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. I don't know why we do it to ourselves every year. Without Twitter, everyone making fun of it on Twitter is the fun of the Brownlow now.
Oh, I'll tell you who was very funny. And again, we come back to Sportsbet, was Dane Swan took over the Sportsbet account and tweeted all night. And he was very bloody funny.
Oh, he's a funny man, Dane. So anyway, I mean, no surprise in the end, Dusty won.
I'm glad he did win. He's had a cracking season.
Well, he was miles ahead. You take him out of that Richmond team and you wonder if they make like the top 8.
Make the 8 even.
I mean, that's how good he's been rather than disparagingly to
5 or 6 games, he probably won off his own boot.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between finishing top 4 and maybe finishing traditional 9th. It's now reserved for Melbourne.
Yeah, that's right. All the Richmond jokes now just apply to Melbourne. Yeah. Gary Ablett has asked, shock horror, you sit in, to go to Geelong.
Who'd have thought that would spring up?
Amazing.
Especially this week.
There was a bit of look, who leaked it, who knows, but to do this in the week of the grand final and just overshadow... the thing about Gary Ablett is, I've always liked Gary Ablett. He's a terrific player and everything, but there are things he's done in recent times that just make it harder to like him, which is there's a couple of things, like he's 34 years old, he's barely played, he's been injured so much. When he has, he's been brilliant, but he's barely played. And look, he phoned it in for the last 2 months up at the Gold Coast by barely playing, right? Yeah. So he leaves Geelong for a lot more money somewhere else. Yeah. Probably, they could have you'd argue, be close to winning a couple more premierships if he'd stayed at the Cats.
Correct.
Right? The Cats fans, and I know the romance of the Ablett name and everything, but I don't get the fairy tale of him returning. It's like someone dumps you and then they come and go off with another bloke and then get sick of him and come back to you. That's not a romance of that.
And certainly not realistic in our cases.
Well, the first bit's not realistic. There's a whole series.
The comeback bit is even more unrealistic. The thing about Gary...
Do you know what I mean? Like, where's the romance of him going back to Geelong, a team he walked out of for more money and couldn't wait to get out of?
I guess that's the Ablett name.
Well, I know all that, but people just turn their brains off.
As you say, I've always sort of liked him, and you've got to admire him as a footballer. He seems like a personable sort of guy, but I've never met him.
I've met him. He's a very nice guy.
But he seems to be, it's all about Gary.
Well,
that may be unfair.
It's
I don't
like
know.
he
That's how it's coming
trained
across.
differently to the rest of the Suns, and then he's made it clear several times he doesn't want to be up there when he took the money, But it's like, and then now they're denying that he said, "Trade me or I retire." Yeah, but I mean,
I think that's pretty much a given. I mean, just because they've denied it means nothing.
But the footy teams, this is where the footy teams, I feel, they have to the players have a lot of power, and that's great. They should have a certain level of power, but it can't be completely unequal. Like, contracts do mean something, especially when Gary's signed it and agreed and all that. He can't then just turn around and go, "Well, I'll retire if you don't." What, mate? Retire.
He tried to get out of the joint last year.
You know what? Retire. Yeah. It's like with Gibbs. I mean, Gibbs then went on and played a very good season at Carlton and all that. So, good on him for being professional. But footy teams don't have to move someone on just because they demand it.
I tell you, if I was Gold Coast, and it's not like their decision-making has been brilliant over the journey, but if I was the head of Gold Coast, I'd be just saying, mate, either we get a gun from Geelong or we're well compensated.
Yeah.
Or, mate, just retire. We don't care. And
yeah, well, their only problem is, they don't want to get nothing out of it all, potentially. But they can play hardball, definitely.
But if he does retire, they won't have to pay out his contract, will they?
No. So for them, it's easier just to say, well, see you later, mate.
Yeah.
Retire.
Yeah.
The thing, too, is, like, Geelong hands like, he's one of the greatest players in the game. All right, well, we want a good player for him. Oh, no, he's not that good.
No.
It's everything. Everyone's like...
You're going to have Darcy Lang.
That's it. They're going through all these players that are really... So they've already... according to reports, the Suns want Mitch Duncan or Cockatoo.
Yeah.
I don't know. It says here star player. I wouldn't call Cockatoo a star. But they don't want to give either of that away, apparently. Yeah. So they're sort of looking at who they could particularly have. One of the newspapers, I think it was The Age, said Darcy Lang is the player that could be offered who's uncontracted. So, like, what the Suns go, oh, yeah, that would be great. You at least want a draft pick or two.
The steak knives you get as a bonus. You don't put your steak knives up as your opening bid.
Yeah,
which is what Geelong are doing.
Yeah, that's
Darcy
right.
Lang.
But I don't think the Suns lose a lot for getting nothing for Ablett except not having his contract. So if he says, I'm going to retire, you go, all right, mate, retire. Good on you.
All that frees up a fair few bucks for them to go after someone else, go after a young player.
But also it's the thing of if you let a player do that and it's known that you'll basically in the end roll over, then every player will try that on.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to say, well, we're a professional club.
Yeah, and Gold Coast need to make a stand and act like a fair dinkum footy club because they've been battling on about 80 fronts in the last few years.
Nice for a change, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
There's talk Jack Watts met with Port Adelaide as a potential trade. Do you think we can get Jimmy Tumpus back?
Be a fair straight swap, wouldn't it?
What do you think of Jack leaving Melbourne?
Oh, look, here's another really good bloke. We always talk about the good bloke clause, but I reckon he's on the way out. I don't reckon Simon Goodwin wants him there because I heard Goodwin the other day on the radio, and they asked him about Jack and about Jesse Hogan. Now, Goodwin was very bullish that Jesse Hogan ain't going nowhere anytime soon. Right. But he was a bit with Jack. And the thing is, it wouldn't be just Jack's performance this year because Simon Goodwin's been there for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, he's seen him in a lot of detail.
Yeah, and there's obviously something, like a lot of Melbourne supporters scream abuse at Jack Watts because he plays in this sort of what appears to be a lackadaisical manner and doesn't...
I would say he is.
Doesn't go for the hard ball, and his second and third efforts can be pretty ordinary. But... look, I think it'd be a shame to let him go because he's a good player. He's a talented player. And somebody said years ago that you never get rid of good players unless you really, really.
I just don't think he's consistent enough. Like his good can be good, but they kind of have to seem to work really hard to get him to really be plugged in. He seems to enjoy doing other things more.
Yeah,
he came back. I know the club was furious with him pre-season and the form he came back in and everything. And then he was hardly consistent across the year.
No.
He has flashes of maybe pulling it all together, but I just don't think he's vital to their... No. So if Port are willing to take him and we get something in return...
Can we get Robbie Gray, perhaps?
We should get Robbie Gray and we should also probably get Chad Wingard and...
Travis Boak.
Maybe also throw in...
Jimmy Tumpus.
Jimmy Tumpus
is the
he's the key.
Is he still there?
He played in the sample, I think, this weekend.
But will he make a list next year at Port?
Oh, I don't know.
I reckon he'd be straight battling.
But Ollie Wines too, they could throw in, and then we've got a deal.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I love when footy you'll see on one of the footy bulletin boards or on Facebook or something. Why don't we trade some terrible player we've got for these 5 superstars and some draft picks? And you go, that's how it works.
I saw somebody say the other day that the Gold Coast Ablett thing, straight swap for Patrick Dangerfield.
Yeah, well,
like that's going to happen.
I'm hoping they were tongue in cheek.
No, it was a Gold Coast supporter, so. Quite possibly they don't know a lot about the game.
Now, even more surprising, Luke Hodge has come out last night
might be about this.
And announced he's very close to signing to play 2 years with the Brisbane Lions. He's
Is
33.
this a good idea for anyone?
I think that for Brisbane, having someone around like him is helpful. I don't think it's necessarily going to be over the next 2 years. Like he's going to decline rapidly.
Yeah.
But it's like they're bottom of the ladder and not very good anyway. So if in 2 years he can just be an average player, but with his coaching on the field and his coaching off the field, I think it's a win for Brisbane.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to win a premiership in the next 2 years. So what are they risking? No. The only thing they're risking is blocking a space for maybe a young kid.
A young player.
But you would argue he's going to develop everyone around him and possibly end up coaching there as an assistant or something more than you're going to lose by having one position taken up by some, So I actually can see
some upside for Brisbane.
them. But you go into it knowing you're not getting Luke Hodge from 3 years ago or something. But he was decent this year.
Yeah, he was fine this year. But
even having him off the field is good for just having him around the club.
Like, but is it good for Hodgie? I don't reckon. Well, it doesn't look great. It looks like
but he's achieved everything. So
cling on.
Yeah, but what does that hurt him? I mean, you know what I mean? Like I know people would like him to finish a one club player and maybe he just enjoyed not the pressure of playing not in the finals this year and thought, I could do that.
I can do that
again.
September off for the next couple of years.
I don't know, maybe, what he was either going to just completely stop and go and do media next year, or he was going to go and become a coach. In this way, he'll probably do a lot of coaching anyway, and get to play a bit. And if he gets injured or it's too much, they'll just put him on as an assistant coach. He'll retire but become an assistant coach up there. A bit like Sam Mitchell, has done. So it's not... Yeah,
it's becoming a thing at Hawthorn now. You play there until you sort of just go over your peak, and then you're out of the joint, but go somewhere else.
I did a lunch last Friday for the Victorian Amateur Football Association, and Alistair Clarkson was there, and he said that in 2008... when they won the premiership, the next year or so they tried to just keep everything it was to try and repeat. And then they went on I think it took another 3 or 4 years till they started winning their three in a row, right? And he said he learned that you can't hang on to what you've got. It won't work because the competition moves past you. Which
that's a good point.
And they learned from that mistake, and that's why they're doing all the things they're doing. So I think even if Hodge wanted to stay, I don't necessarily think you can't cling to the past forever. You have to kind of move on, and that's what's just driving Hawthorn a little bit because they've been as successful as they can ever be, but now they're trying to
logic.
That's
as far as the club's concerned. And I don't think would Hawthorn even care that he's going to Brisbane. Because he's retired.
Well, that's what I mean. I think the fans care, and I think there's some at Hawthorn that would have preferred he stayed retired and became they're not going to love it.
Lewis
but would they spend a fortune trying to stop him going to Brisbane and keep him? No, probably not, because they want to move on to their next thing. So anyway, it's kind of interesting.
It is.
Stevie J's decided to take a job as assistant coach at Sydney Swans.
The Swans.
GWS
just across town.
The GWS didn't have a similar position available, so
I find that hard to believe, but
I don't know. Maybe it would be weird. Like I do think it's weird to go from being a player at a club to then becoming a
coach at that.
Few
club.
have done it. Paul Roos did that.
Yeah, at Sydney, of course.
Yeah, not straight away, but he had a bit of a break. But he knew a lot of the players, so and that can sometimes work. But other times, I think going and seeing how another club runs, and there are. For CVJ, I think it's good because there are worse places to go learn than Sydney.
Oh, exactly. I mean, he will be going to a very successful and good club. What will be interesting is to see how he develops as a coach, because I tend to think, and I've got no reason to say this, but Stevie J strikes me as maybe one of these incredibly gifted players who may not make the greatest of coaches, Yeah,
because they're just so freakish.
That's to expect everyone to be as good as them. And this was a.
But he never strikes me as a rigid thinker. Like Buckley strikes me like that.
Yeah, I was about to say that was the problem with Buckley in the early days. They reckon he's coaching.
Well, even
they just
now, but Buckley
everyone.
said I think it was last year. He said they asked, he said he doesn't see his job as motivating players because they should turn up every day motivated. And you're like,
that's part of.
That's not
always
really
been part of the coach's job.
That's not really how it works. Like it would be nice.
Yeah.
But anyone who's been a boss of anything knows.
And by the time players get to AFL level, they shouldn't be needing a coach to teach them how to kick or handball. There's a lot more to it than that, and motivation's part of it.
keeping them like focused and happy and
all that sort of stuff.
So anyway, so that's interesting, CVJ going there. Now they announced new AFL women's teams this week. North Melbourne and Geelong are going to get a club in 2019.
Yes.
So that'll take the number of teams up to 10. And then 4 other clubs have been announced will get it in 2020. That's Gold Coast, West Coast, Richmond and St Kilda. Isn't it great to see Gold Coast, they're willing to throw away money on the women and the men? Yeah. That's equality.
It is.
We're going to waste money on the women just as much as the men. Will there be a men's Gold Coast team by 2020, do you think?
Well, they may well just be able to turn over the jumpers and the change rooms, do you know what I mean? Well, what if the men's Gold Coast team gets relocated to Tassie?
Well, that's right. I mean, I think North's bid got up partly because they're pushing the idea of playing a lot of the games in Tasmania or having recruiting from so growing the women's game in.
Well, that kind of makes a bit of sense
in Tassie. So
they won't have the pressure of having to have 30,000 people at every game to be viable, which would have been possibly a problem with a man's team down there.
The other ones that missed out, though, Hawthorn and Essendon missed out.
And you wonder why.
And they were very annoyed about it. Very annoyed. And obviously Essendon missed out because the AFL still hate them.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's going to be a long while before Essendon get any favours from the AFL.
Yeah, well, I've heard that part of originally the teams that got AFL women's teams is if it can open up new areas. So, they've tried to put that's why Geelong's got one because it opens up that region. Gold Coast have one and Brisbane have one. They can open up the different parts of the country where Hawthorn and Essendon don't open up any new bits of in terms of developing the game and having local areas and all that geographically and all that sort of stuff. So, and they've also mainly tried to aim it at clubs that they can actually... So the women's will get funding for things like their gyms and their various things, which can go into the men's stuff too because they use the same facilities. So it's a way of helping clubs that perhaps aren't that well off to also get, some support, extra cash and support, which is why a lot of the lesser teams, I guess, in terms of popularity, got the early tranche of it. Yeah. So that's part of why that's all happening.
Surely with Hawthorn building this big new facility at Dingley, they could add a women's toilet to it, surely, and get that over the line.
Spend some of their pokies cash.
Yeah.
Well, they say they wanted to get it. I guess it's just... They had to cut some because they have to make the decision. You could argue... There's a part of me that thinks it's expanding too quickly already because... Is the skill level there to and I don't say that because it's the women. I think they've expanded the AFL a bit too quickly. I think we saw a massive drop off in quality when GWS and Gold Coast were put in, but maybe that's because I was watching Melbourne all those years.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure about that. I reckon because if they bring in 4 new teams next year, I'd say so, but it's after that and then 2 years after that, by which time a lot of girls who have got into the system now under 12, 13 and 14 levels
are going to start to be ready.
A lot of them will be ready to play at the higher level, whereas at the moment there probably isn't. But in 2 or 3 years, 4 years' time, I reckon, because you just need to see the massive expansion of I call it girls' teams, under 13s through under 16s, all around Australia. I reckon that'll work out okay for them.
There's a big glut coming through, basically. Yeah. Sydney and Port Adelaide both chose to not apply for a side, citing that they hate women.
Yeah, I was just about to say. Sydney, and look, and you got to say, Port Adelaide, that's a man's town. It's always has been.
No, I think the thing with some of them are good to say, well, this is an extra thing you have to do. Yeah. Is our club at the financial and operational ability to do all of this?
Yeah.
And Port, you could argue, are still trying to financially and footy-wise get
You'd reckon Sydney would be right for that, though?
Yeah, I think so. But, it's also like their facilities and everything. Are they set up for all of it? Yeah. And it is I don't know, maybe it is, but maybe they see it as it's a risk that they didn't want to initially take on yet. Wait a few years and...
See how it goes.
See how it goes. Or they could just hate women.
Yeah.
That's probably the most...
Quite possible. That's the most likely.
They should put out a statement to that, to that effect. Great story this week came in. Jesse White, former Collingwood player in Sydney before that, he's apparently been offered a contract to play in the NBL.
Right. This is a reversal of the usual.
Yeah, a lot of people point out to me on Twitter, they're going to mention his football background every 5 minutes. He's been training with Melbourne United and could suit up for the team as a development squad player this NBL season, which begins on October 5. He's still weighing up the contract offer. Now, he began his career he was picked number 79 in 2006 draft. Wasn't that a steal?
Pick 79. Who'd have thought he'd get the last?
I thought he was a top 10.
Yeah.
But apparently a year earlier than that, he was offered an opportunity to pursue a basketball career with a scholarship at the Institute of Sport back in 2005. But he hasn't played basketball since he was selected to represent Queensland as a teenager. So it's not like he probably hasn't played basketball at any level for 10 plus years.
Yeah. But obviously he can play the game, and he's weighing up the contract from Melbourne
I like that,
United.
your confidence. He obviously can play the game, or is he just tall?
With tats. That helps. But I like the fact that he's weighing up the contract from Melbourne United. Let me tell you, a lot less than what he was on at Collingwood.
NBL. A development contract in the NBL wouldn't be much at all.
Be about 30 grand a year or 40 grand a year.
Oh, if that.
Yeah. I mean,
probably have to work full time somewhere else, I imagine.
Yeah. So we'll just have to see.
It's exciting though, isn't it?
It is. It is.
We'd love to see him go around again.
I'd love to see him just dropping rebounds inside the key.
Missing free throws.
Running into the wrong spots,
That's right, committing fouls.
Yeah, I was about to say, you have 5 fouls in the first 7 minutes. But,
that would be good.
Good luck to him. Good luck to him.
Now, the grand final.
Yes.
I know you're excited.
I am.
Very excited.
Oh, look, it's
What's your big plans for the day?
For the day, got to do the breakfast at the Grand Hyatt, and then I'll just be going home and got a bunch of people coming over, and we're just going to drink heavily, basically, and watch the game. Just so the tradition continues.
And it's always good. The thing I like most about Grand Final Day is your ability to drink in public in the morning.
In the morning.
You don't get to
and
do that often.
And not feel guilty or even be looked at a bit strangely like we normally do. But yeah, that's pretty much the day, and I'm very much looking forward to the game. Now, what are your plans for the day? You got.
So I'm doing the North Melbourne Grand Final breakfast, and then I've got the St Kilda breakfast, and then the Sydney Swans lunch, and then the game. So working all day,
right?
But it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, there is something about Richmond being in it. It's 37 years since they won a premiership. That's a long time. Yeah. Like if you were born then, you're approaching 40. That's a long time.
And 35 years since they've even been in a grand final.
Yeah,
and they lost that in '82 to Carlton. But
I don't know how Richmond fans will handle a victory
or a loss.
Well, that's the thing.
I don't know. Either way, just look at it. I mean, for all the hype and carry on about Richmond this week, how boring would it have been if it was GWS versus Adelaide this week in town? That's the great thing about Richmond. Everyone's up and about, and there's a bit of fun in the air. But I don't know what's going to happen. If they win, it's just going to be just this massive outpouring of, even more so than the Dogs last year. I mean, we thought that the Bulldogs, romance last year could never be, upended. But the Richmond, if they win this year, it will just be massive.
Well, it's just this. I think the difference in that the Bulldogs was a huge thing because it's been so long and they've been like long suffering.
Yeah.
And, but Richmond fans, where it's not quite as long, but they've had sort of gone through cruel and unusual punishment. Yeah. They're not like the North. They've really had to.
Always expected to be better than they were. The Tigers.
That's the thing. They've always had hope.
Yeah.
Richmond supporters.
But getting to the actual game itself, how do you see that panning out?
Well, I think, I I've said all along, and I haven't changed my view. I think Adelaide are the best team.
Yeah.
I just
There's no question. There is not a weak link in their side.
Yeah, so look, grand final. Anyone you can have anything happen because someone can just under the pressure. You don't know what people do. Weird things under pressure. So who knows what could happen? But you look at it, and can the Tigers really keep? Can they match them scoring wise, or can their defence really shut them down? Now it's quite possible. It's not impossible for it to happen.
Everything's possible. I tend to think, and you look at it. It happens in every grand final. There's always a couple of players, and usually you're fringy type players who've just got in there, one or two who don't get a kick or just have a shocker in the grand final. Yeah. And you look at both teams this year and you think the team most likely to have a couple of players have a shocker, I reckon, is Richmond, because they're less experienced. And you look at Adelaide were just clinical last Friday night. They were just brilliant the way they dismantled Geelong. Yeah. And so you've got to look at that from a football point of view. And I think now Richmond are quite capable of winning the game, but I think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be a one-sided grand final either way. But I just tend to think Richmond are going to need their lesser lights and their kids, we call them that, to all perform if they're going to win. And you generally find there's one or two in every grand final that just they get overwhelmed or they're so excited by being out there they run around and can't get a touch.
I think if you see Charlie Cameron breaking from stoppages, you're going to know that Richmond are in trouble. Yeah,
exactly.
They just got, and Rory Sloane's had another week after coming back from. So I just I think they're more an even side. Yeah,
I just think Adelaide, the Richmond defence is going to have to play its greatest match ever to stop Adelaide scoring. So I think Adelaide could just, even if it's an even sort of contest for the whole four quarters, Adelaide will still kick more goals just because they've got more avenues to goal. And they've got, like, Jack Rewald, he hasn't been kicking many goals lately, and they'll need a big one from him at the Tigers. But,
they sort of don't play like that now, the Tigers. I know. They're a weird setup.
If he kicks 4 or 5, they'll win. But he doesn't sort of have to anymore. It's interesting. But you've got to... Well, you don't got to tip Adelaide, but I reckon looking at it from every angle, you sort of have to tip Adelaide.
Over here, it's so Richmond focused that you almost forget that Adelaide to play.
Oh, I know. It's you look at... Even the front page of the Herald Sun this morning, get your cut-out tiger face tomorrow, which remind me I've got to do that.
You're right, sure, I can see you. Well, in Adelaide, it's the reverse.
Oh, it will be. But can you get a cut-out crow face in Adelaide? I'm not sure about that. But, look, the hype of the whole week, I mean, every year the hype is fantastic.
Yeah.
But this year even more so because it's Richmond being in there after such a drought.
Yeah.
I mean, Collingwood are as big a club as Richmond, but if it was Collingwood this year, there wouldn't be as much hype because they've been there and done that in recent years. And Essendon, I mean, they're as big a club as Richmond, but even so, if they got there, it would have been a lot hoo-ha this year. But
would have been a movie.
Yeah, it would have. There's your final scene. James Hird.
The sleeping one, like Carlton's a big sleeping giant. Yeah, if Carlton actually ever got his act together.
Yeah, that'll be huge when they come back. But, I mean, who's going to play Melbourne next year in the grand final? Gold Coast? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be it.
Yeah, that'll be it. Oh, there we go.
I reckon Hodgie's going to bring the Lions back. I don't know. I think GWS have got to go close next year because they sort of had the two prelims. Yeah. You think at some point they either get across that hurdle, if they don't, they're sort of... I'm glad we're speculating on next year's grand final already.
Look, I think GWS, I think they're due for a priority pick. I think the AFL might even give them one because of their failure these last 2 years.
But it will be a great day. It's not going to rain too much. It's going to be not warm, but not going to be...
Just perfect grand final weather.
And there's nothing more exciting than having Danny or whatever perform at half time.
Oh, is that Danny
or whatever her name is?
Yeah, well, I didn't even know that.
Well, there's Killers that are a bit more relevant than some
Killers will be interesting before the game, and the free Killers concert afterwards, that'll be big.
Yeah, that'll get a lot of people, because a lot of people who aren't even into footy might go to that.
Yeah, exactly. And but can you imagine how big that'll be if Richmond win? because thousands of.
But a lot of the Richmond, if they win, they'll all go to wherever there's the official after party and everything.
Over at Punt Road, and then Swan Street will be chaos.
That'll be everyone going to that.
Yeah.
It's going to be mad. In Melbourne, if you walk around at the moment, there's people with Tigers stuff everywhere. It's crazy. It's kind of a bit scary.
And the other thing...
But it's nice to actually be able to recognise them.
Yes.
Rather than before when they were just sort of hidden. I'm not saying we should make Tiger supporters always wear a mark.
Yeah, but it has been handy to just see that slash of yellow.
Across the road.
I tell you what I did notice coming up Punt Road. Melbourne Storm supporters are out in force.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, when I say out in force, it's both considerably less than Richmond.
But they've got a good following. For an NRL fan, they've got a big following.
Yeah, they have. So, we should say best of luck to the Storm as well on Sunday.
Yeah, that'll be a good game.
Even though the NRL, they still can't sell out the grand final in Sydney.
Really?
Yeah, there's still tickets available.
Well, it's hard, though, because it's North Queensland and it's Melbourne.
Yeah,
so it's...
but still, it's the grand final.
Yeah, but it's a bit like if
it
was Adelaide.
They've got Macklemore.
Is there anyone more? You'd be pretty excited.
Oh, yeah, no. Nothing like a bit of white boy rap for me.
Yeah, white rap's just better.
And of course it is. It's more authentic. It's more urban.
That's right. They're just singing from the suffering they've had all their life.
Yes, growing up.
We're of a generation where, rap's one thing to get your head around because it's come along in our lifetime and a lot of people know. But then white rap's just an extra bridge that, leaves...
Yeah, I know. Look, Australia, they've got some white rappers, and I'm sorry, I just can't come out.
I know you're a massive Iggy Azalea fan.
Oh, yeah.
The last left.
Why isn't she in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Yeah, no, not a big rap for you, old Iggy, and your white rap in general. But, good luck to Macklemore. Hope he kills it to his backing track.
The best one was when Slash came out and played a couple of bars of Guns N' Roses songs, didn't sing them, and then just went went into other stuff.
He did about 90 seconds of just the sort of guitar noodling that you hear in every guitar shop by a 17-year-old who's had lessons. Yeah. And that was a bit, and then he did a little bit of the riff from Sweet Child of Mine, and then he was off. He was out of there.
It's terrible.
It was shocking.
You can't.
He's no Bryan Adams.
Well, I'm missing Timo Matic. There used to be a time you always got Timo.
Timo Matic. What's ever happened to him?
The Super Bowl's going to have trying to get Justin Timberlake this year.
Are they?
Or for January.
Yeah.
So that's the first time since the wardrobe malfunction.
Oh, right. He is allowed back in the building.
Well, apparently.
Oh,
he served his penance.
Keep his pants on, Justin.
They get forgiven. Musicians will get forgiven as quickly as football stars, basically.
No question. I mean, sort of bad behaviour is expected from musicians.
Yeah.
They can come back from anything. But, I don't know. It's going to be a big weekend.
Well, we will be back on Monday to wrap this whole thing up.
Hopefully.
Best of luck for Crows and Tigers fans. I hope your team gets up, whoever it is. And we will see you Monday.
See you then.